I think I would talk more of the past that sabotage. We are in the 11-year mark. So the first 7 years was pretty much school. And in that school, we were doing a lot of DIY, which didn't really work. But by the grace of God, we found ourselves in a better place where we surrounded ourselves with people who were willing to guide us through that. But the one thing that we both agreed on, the biggest sabotage, was the Rora experience, because it created, and not just us, but in having a lot of conversations with a lot of people who've gone through the process, there is a rift that's created from that day one. There's a mistrust that's created based on how it is handled. Instead of bringing families together, it can unfortunately create separation. And we then, let me say, my husband, Mr. Mlimu, he became interested in learning more about the history of Zimbabwe, and also understanding how the Land and Cattle Act, all these acts that were enacted, and all these things that were done during the colonial era that created what we call modern day Rora, and how it is done. Not at the core of it, but the processes of, you pay this much, you put this much, we want cash, we want that, and how it was created to destroy the foundation of the African family. And we have continued it and call it tradition. But really, when you look at the undergirding current, it was that of division by the colonial system.
So I was trying to look at both our African culture and bringing across the Bible. And now coming to who we are today, trying to marry those things. I really like it when they said it looks like the colonizers brought these things and now there's a lot of confusion coming in. It's true, because what happened when the colonizers came, it kind of brought confusion to us as Africans to stand in our position and know who we are in terms of our culture, because culture is who we are before we become Christians. And it was very now difficult to separate what's tradition, what's cultural, what should we keep, and what should we embrace in terms of the Bible when it came with the white people. But one thing that I was so excited in my study, in my research to come across, was how the Shona culture and the Jewish culture in the Bible blend. They bring such a powerful framework that aligns with the Shona culture, brings a framework which aligns with the Bible very closely. So the Hebrew Jewish marriage principles, particularly in how authority, responsibility, wisdom, communal accountability are understood. So you find that the structure aligns, for example, the issue of marriage before the colonizers came. It was in our own Shona culture. It was a covenantal thing. It was not a business transaction like we see today, but in our deep African culture, before the colonizers came, it was a covenantal thing, not a private arrangement. So the Shona and the Jewish parallel, in Shona culture, Rora, marriage, lobola, is a covenant between two families, witnessed by elders. Similarly, biblical marriage is a covenant before God and the community, not merely a romantic contract. So you find that the biblical foundational scripture that you can look at is Malachi chapter 2, verse 14, which highlights that she's your companion and your wife by covenant. So And then you can also look at Mark chapter 10, verse 9, that says, what God has joined together, let no one separate, let no man put asunder. So both systems recognize marriage is sacred, marriage is binding, marriage is accountable beyond the couple. So this has been there before the white people came. So complementary roles, not hierarchy or hierarchy of worth. So the Shona understanding roles are distinct but equally honorable. A wife governs the home. A husband represents, protects, and family externally. So authority flows by function, not by superiority.
Dr. Makai and Mrs. Mdimu and Mr. Mdimu, you talked about culture. Excuse me. You talked about culture. Do we realize that there are two traditions in the way we get married? Let's just put it on the table that a white wedding or a church wedding, as we call it, it's actually a tradition where somebody decided for this group of people to be married, you have to wear a suit and it has to be a white dress. It's a decision. There has to be rings that you don't take off. So when we get married traditionally, Rora process, and we are doing it, which I believe should be a token relationship, token payments to seal, to bring two families together. We realize that we are doubling the tradition. So if we have the understanding that this was a system that was laid out by somebody else, that then there's a gathering, then you go to church, then there's got to be a priest, and then there's vuramromo, nendiro, makandinzwani, matekenyandebu. Those are two traditions that are coexisting.